Knowledge is dynamic, fluid, an ever-changing realm. As our lives have been looming in uncertainty lately, we're here today to celebrate that very idea of life.
Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome on behalf of DPS International. Today, we will be commencing with our very first virtual Theory of Knowledge exhibition by the class of 2022, The Map of Knowledge Celebrating Metamorphosis. The COVID-19 pandemic has altered our lives, and the lockdown period was spent in solitude for most and in isolation for some. However, the new year heralds a period of metamorphosis, a period of change.
For all the parents who have joined us on this occasion, this is for you. Here we'll be exploring what TOK is and the various ways by which we connect to theory of knowledge in our everyday lives.
We are honored to have with us our chief guest, Mr. Michael Dunn, who is the creator of the famous TOK website theoryofknowledge.net. We also welcome our guest schools and all the parents present here today.
We are delighted to have some esteemed guests from the IB community. We have Pathways World School, Lancers International School, GD Goenka World School, and Genesis Global School.
Among us, we also have our head of school, Ms. Reema Singh, our secondary school principal, Ms. Seema Kaushal, and our primary school principal, Ms. Kamal Shah. Please give them a warm welcome. We would also like to take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Monisha and Ms. Priyanka, who have taken our time to witness our portrayal of TOK learning.
We also welcome our PYP coordinator, Ms. Arpita Saxena, MYP coordinator, Ms. Ekta Singh, and our DP coordinator, Ms. Jyotika Singh.
We would also like to extend a warm welcome to our friends from MYP5.
We are honored to have you all be a part of this momentous occasion in our DP journey.
Now, on behalf of our TOK department, please welcome Ms. Shalini, the TOK coordinator, to welcome our chief guest for the event.
Albert Einstein once quoted, "The search of truth is more precious than its possession." Such is the journey of TOK learners at DPSI. Good afternoon, everyone. With immense pleasure and pride, on behalf of Theory of Knowledge Department and the class of 2022 at DPS International Gurgaon, I, Shalini Sehgal, welcome you all to the Map of Knowledge. Theory of knowledge is a product of doubt. Our students are inspired, guided, and driven to inquire into whether we really know anything at all. This leads them organically into the examination of knowing, in the hope of being able to distinguish between validated and biased beliefs. Through TOK exhibition journey, students at DPSI celebrated the process of metamorphosis, changing their ways to accept knowledge depending on their perspectives and values. To be able to exhibit their learning, they adopted a three-step approach. Selection of an IA prompt, which is a knowledge question. Identification of three objects connected to the IA prompt. And finally, drafting a commentary to illustrate their connections. This success and happiness is being witnessed by all of us today. And among all of us, we have our esteemed chief guest for the evening, Mr. Michael Dunn. Mr. Michael went to school in Cambridge and university at Edinburgh, where he majored in history and was awarded an MA with honours. He did his PGCE at Exeter University, spending his first couple of years as a teacher in London. He has worked in various schools in Bogota and Lima since 2001, and his last position was as TOK coordinator and MYP humanities teacher at Newton College, Peru from 2016 to 2020. Over the years, he has also collaborated with Cambridge University Press on written and video blogs, resource development, and in-school seminars and workshops for students and teachers. He set up theoryofknowledge.net in 2010, and it has grown to become the biggest online resource in the world for this course. He is dedicated in making TOK a genuinely life-changing experience for teachers and learners involved in it, which he does by designing resources, developing in-school and online workshops, and via his unique monthly newsletter. I would like to congratulate all who are present here and best wishes to the class of 2022. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for getting us started. Now let's welcome our chief guest to share his learning with everyone.
My name is Michael Dunn, and I'm the creator of theoryofknowledge.net, an online resource centre for TOK. I'm honoured to be a part of this fantastic event at DPS International, and I'm really happy to be supporting an event that promotes the work that we all do in TOK. TOK aligns so beautifully with the key skills that students need to be honing at high school in order to become successful members of the epistemic community that is critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. In today's society, which is characterized by data overload and the constant bombardment of misinformation and disinformation, these four skills have never been more important for students to develop and then take with them to university and the workplace. This event, based on the concept of metamorphosis, really showcases the way in which TOK concepts manifest themselves in the real world and have a link to all the disciplines that we involve ourselves in. The work of the students show how you can take an ordinary object and explore the way in which it has strong resonance with the different themes of TOK: religion, indigenous societies, language, technology, and politics. The ideas and concepts have been communicated in a clear and engaging way, and I commend the students for the effort that they've made, both in terms of the assessment targets of TOK and in helping to put on such a fantastic exhibition. DPSI has really managed to demonstrate the potential of TOK, both as an intellectual discipline in its own right and as a way of highlighting the learning going on in an international school. I hope that it helps to inspire other schools and other students to put on similar events and continue to spread the message that TOK is the central academic experience, not just of the IB diploma, but of students' academic experiences to date. Well done to all of the DPSI students and to your fantastic TOK department. I hope you have a fantastic day today. I hope the event goes well. I'm looking forward to watching it from here in Cambridge, and I congratulate you again for putting on such a brilliant event. So well done.
Thank you so much for those insightful comments, sir. We would now like to invite our secondary school principal, Ms. Seema Kaushal, to address the gathering.
Good evening, Chief Guest Mr. Michael Dunn, guest students and teachers from various schools, students and teachers of DPS International, parents and the world community. In this age of knowledge explosion, the need of the hour is to have individuals who can evaluate the knowledge claims, individuals who have greater awareness and seek credibility, individuals who put aside their ideological biases to examine knowledge claims from multiple perspectives. The world would be a happier place if we were all aware of our personal and ideological assumptions and become more accepting of the same in others. In simpler terms, the world would be a happier place if we had all studied the TOK. Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for your untiring efforts in spreading the TOK light through your website and with your presence today. We are ever so grateful for your time and engagement with our exhibition today. Students and teachers of guest schools who are present here today, thank you for being here with us on our special day, and we hope you have an enriching evening ahead. Socrates said, and I quote, "The ability to distinguish between right and wrong lies with the people's reason and not the society." Join us today as students from DPSI engage in this Socratic elenkai into the world of TOK. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Seema, for all the motivating words.
With this, we come to the beginning of the TOK exhibition by the class of 2022. To inaugurate the event, we would cordially like to invite our head of school, Ms. Rima, to officially announce the exhibition open.
Good afternoon, everybody. A warm welcome to all of you. The nature of learning has always been important in an IB school. As educators, we are aware that knowledge has a short shelf life, change is happening at a fast pace, and today's students need real-world skills to thrive in the not-too-distant future. These skills include critical thinking, collaboration, problem-solving, self-awareness, self-management, and responsible decision-making. And they are all important regardless of the subject area they are taught through. This requires a deliberate effort from us educators to create conditions where learners can demonstrate and develop these skills. In addition, we want to encourage all students in an international school to develop intercultural understanding and respect. Theory of knowledge, TOK. A core of the IB diploma program is exactly the springboard to develop these skills and intercultural competencies in our students. I would like to congratulate all students and their teachers who have put in a super effort to make this day happen, where students will showcase their TOK journey. And it gives me great pleasure to declare this DPSI TOK virtual exhibition open.
My my name is Aditi Kaur and I am the host for the Pleiades channel of our TOK exhibition. The Pleiades, also known as the Seven Sisters, is a conspicuous cluster of stars in the constellation Taurus that includes 6 stars in the form of a very small dipper. All exhibitions that you see in this channel are related implicitly to the Pleiades' importance to ancient cartography. Before we even had maps for the Earth, we had maps for our stars as ancient civilizations looked up and charted the night. Without further ado, let's get started on the Pleiades channel for the class of 2022's TOK exhibition.
I am Naisha Thaya, a student of DB1B. The IA prompt I've selected is prompt 14. Does some knowledge only belong to a particular community of knowers? This prompt questions whether particular communities of knowers are the rightful owners of some specific knowledge, or do they possess a specific class of knowledge? My exhibition explores concepts of responsibility, interpretation, and culture. The first object that I've connected to this prompt is a photograph of the Hagia Sophia Mosque that I clicked on my trip to Turkey in 2019. The Church of Hagia Sophia, which later became a mosque, then a museum, now officially stands as the Hagia Sophia Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey. Believers of both Islam and Christianity have considered this building a place of worship over the years. In 2019, when I had personally visited the at that time mosque, carvings of both faiths covered the walls. The rarity of such an instance disproves the religious divides and adds to the point that although different communities of knowers may have varied beliefs, they can still share some common knowledge, such as a common place of worship. Further, this can be linked to the concept of culture, as even though religion and culture are two separate concepts, one's religion is part of their culture. Therefore, seeing as to how knowers of different religions partake in the same cultural and historical backgrounds unleashes new grounds of the possession of knowledge. The second object that I've chosen is an Enigma Machine. The Enigma Machine was a German code device created by Arthur Scherbus for the German military command. I first acquired this knowledge in my INS class of MYP4 while discussing the German bombings in England and Churchill's dilemma surrounding it. The functional utility of this machine was to encode and deliver encrypted messages to protect commercial, diplomatic, and military information. The device essentially transmitted knowledge in a manner that could only be interpreted by one particular community of knowers, the Germans. This can also be linked to the concept of responsibility, as the messages, which in this case can be termed as knowledge, contained information that concerned national security and world peace. Hence, there is grave responsibility attached to the transmission and acquisition of that knowledge. In conclusion, the knowledge that Enigma codes carried only belonged to one particular community of knowers, the German military command. My third and final object that I've chosen is a book titled Letters from a Father to His Daughter. This book was written by Jawaharlal Nehru to his daughter Priya Indra Darshini during the summer of 1928. It is a collection of 30 letters. It was published in 1929 by the Allahabad Law Journal at Nehru's request. I personally connected this object as I have studied this in my MYP years and have understood the personal nature of this book in detail. While the intended correspondence of those letters was Indra, the book was open to anyone who purchased it, and so was the knowledge that it beheld. The book was published at Nehru's request, hence it was completely ethical for the world to indulge in that knowledge. This is an example of how over time, knowledge which may only belong to one specific knower transformed into public knowledge. This example can also be linked to the concept of interpretation, as the knowledge that those letters carried had personal anecdotes which would have meant something special for Indra. However, when it was open to the world, the tone and mood of the writing could lead to various interpretations of the same. In conclusion, the IA prompt, does some knowledge belong only to a particular community of knowers, allowed me to explore the relationship between knowledge and knowers. My personal experiences helped me identify instances of where knowledge belonged to only a particular communities of knowers and instances where it did not. It further helped me navigate through and develop an understanding about the significance of our knowledge and its versatile impact on the real world. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ananya Kaur from DP1A, and for my TOK exhibition, I've chosen prompt number 35, which is in what ways do values affect production of knowledge? My exhibition explores this prompt in majorly three ways. First being how values can promote production of knowledge if the product capitalizes on any specific value. Similarly, how the development of values can influence the development of production of knowledge. Many experts use the technique of capitalizing on their audience's value in order to draw them towards their value, assisting production of knowledge. My first object is my basketball shoes. Technology plays a very important role in designing basketball shoes since they're very different from normal sneakers due to the need for extra grip to support additional athletic movements. Prior knowledge clubbed with the development of various basketball shoes have led to the improvement in many players' performance. So in this case, our value of success acts as a motivator and a driving force towards production of knowledge. Since these shoes enhance one's skills and abilities to make spontaneous movements with minimal injury, they have a direct effect on winning. Our value of success motivates us to buy basketball shoes which allow efficient movement and comfort, hence promoting production of knowledge and technology-based innovation. Personally, as a basketballer myself, I choose my shoes according to my comfort level and need as a defender. My second object is a packet of Whisper sanitary napkins. Years of education clubbed with modern technology has made the experience of menstruation be as comfortable as possible for women. Pad companies such as Whisper have started exploring customizable pads catering to the needs of every woman. Sanitary napkins used to be looked down upon and menstruating women were considered impure. However, now due to the advancement of mindsets and values, this cycle has become more and more accepted by the society. Because of this, experts have started exploring and researching more about these sanitary napkins. So in this case, the value of relief as well as the eradication of the value considering menstruation impure act as a driving force to promote production of knowledge, that is advanced and customizable sanitary napkins. Being a teenage girl myself, I choose my pads according to my skin type and my perception of comfort, flow and hygiene. Therefore, the development and advancement of values also influence the development and advancement of production of knowledge. My third object is a book written by Daisaku Ikeda called The Way of Youth. This book explores Buddhist values and beliefs and how the implementation of Lord Buddha's teachings can help resolve real-life teenage issues. Daisaku Ikeda promotes his Buddhist values in this book. Hence, the production of knowledge is done through the lens of Buddhist values and beliefs. This book would be originally available only to Buddhist practitioners. However, now due to the advancement of technology and the increasing influence of technology over people, the values of Buddhism produced in this book are now accessible to people around the globe. Having been a practitioner of Buddhism in the past and reading this book, I saw how my thoughts and ideologies were being reflected in it, which is why I was drawn towards it. This may not be the same for any other individual reading this book who isn't very open to Buddhist ideologies. So in this case, my values promoted this production of knowledge. Therefore, values of Buddhism influence an expert to produce knowledge in a certain way, which further influenced a reader to be drawn towards that production of knowledge. In conclusion, our past values influence the way we view production of knowledge. Values are one of the greatest driving forces of creation of bias, which is what influences us to be either repelled by or attracted to any form of production of knowledge. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dhruv Farasi and I am from DB1A. The TOK exhibition prompt that I have chosen is how can we distinguish between knowledge, belief and opinion. So, knowledge, belief and opinion are three different ways in which we can hold ideas about the world. So for example, something global and factual constitutes knowledge. So an example can be the law of gravitation, Newton's laws, and we inhale oxygen. These are facts that have been proven by science. Hence, these constitute knowledge. And on the other hand, belief is something that is subjective but varies a lot from person to person. An example of this can be belief in God, belief in life after death. These vary a lot from person to person, and these depend on various factors such as a person's community, religion, and their culture. So and opinions on the other hand are loosely held, and usually they are not properly backed up by evidence. For example, it's quite common to argue with friends that Messi is a better football player than Ronaldo, or Ronaldo is a better player than Messi. These are just opinions. These vary from person to person depending on their own perspective, and these change from time to time depending on the circumstances. The first object that I chose for the exhibition is the Saibaba temple in Gurgaon. So when we talk about things like temple as a place of worship, its history, its location, we are listing down facts related to the temple. These constitute knowledge. For example, the Saibaba temple is located in Sector 52 and was constructed in 2003. These are facts related to the temple. And while growing up, I noticed that not everyone visits the Saibaba temple. This made me realize that belief in God was varied from person to person, and only a person of a particular religion would believe in God while others would not. And when I used to visit a temple, I used to hear people saying that the funds collected by the temple should be used to educate the poor children, and while others said that these funds should be used to provide food to the poor. Hence, these are opinions that varied from person to person. The second object that I have chosen is a web series titled Scam 1992, the Harshad Mehta story. So, this web series covers the life of Harshad Mehta and uncovers the scam of 1992. The scam involved diverting funds of thousands of crores from banks to the stock market. These are facts and hence constitute knowledge. The series also shows Harshad Mehta doing things that he firmly believes are the right things, and that he also believes that his actions are the right actions. These are examples of belief. The web series also shows some explicit opinions about the people that they have about the scam. According to some people, he just exploited the loopholes that existed in the system, and he is not wrong at all. And while for some other people, his actions are nothing short of criminal. The third object that I have chosen is a copy of the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution is a source of documented knowledge on how to run a country. It is generally accepted as a best way to run the country. But when we talk about specific laws, controversies get created. A recent one being the Citizenship Amendment Act. The content of the actual law that the government passed is the real knowledge about it. However, some people had a belief that this would strip them of their citizenship. This law also drew diverse public opinion, while some people claiming that this is the right move by the government and others claiming that this law is discriminatory. These aspects of the same constitutional law help us differentiate between knowledge, belief, and opinion. So, on the basis of the discussion that we had so far, in order to distinguish between knowledge, belief, and opinion, we can create a matrix. This matrix mainly consists of two factors: how subjective or objective something is, and the degree of certainty we have about it. Knowledge is objective, and the degree of certainty that we have about it is high because it is a proven fact. Belief is subjective, and the degree of certainty that we have about it is high because it is hard to change the belief. On the other hand, opinion is also subjective, but the degree of certainty that we have about it is low because it can change more frequently with time and circumstances.
My name is Deepanshi Matai, and the prompt that I've chosen for my TOK exhibition today is: does some knowledge belong only to particular communities of knowers? Knowledge is being constantly shared and passed along to people by other people. The only reason we have so much knowledge is because knowers constantly share and exchange information that we gain. However, there might be some knowledge that belongs only to a particular community of knowers. either by choice or by circumstance. For example, a lot of native communities and indigenous communities don't share knowledge that belongs to them to people outside of their tribes as they consider it sacred to them. Other times, knowledge might be lost to us due to circumstance. Perhaps the biggest example of this is the Library of Alexandria that was burned down by Julius Caesar, and now we've forever lost the information that was contained in there. The first object that I've chosen for my exhibition today is #NotYourPrincess, Voices of Native American Women. This is a novel that is a biographical anthology that contains poems, stories, and artworks by Native American indigenous women. This book highlights how some knowledge belongs only to particular communities of knowers, as each story, each poem, and each artwork describes a different experience. And even though I might be able to read and learn about the experiences of Native American women, I will never truly know what it is to be a Native American woman in 21st century America. It also highlights how certain knowledge can only be gained through experience. And since experiences are such a big part of how we gain knowledge, it only makes sense that some knowledge belongs only to people who have experienced certain events. The second object that I chose for my exhibition today is a tablet from the Harappan Civilization. The Harappan Civilization, also known as the Indus Valley Civilization, is the earliest known urban civilization in South Asia. The first sites of it were identified in 1921, which is an entire century ago this year. However, linguists and archaeologists have still not been able to decipher the language of the Harappans, which means that any knowledge that their artifacts and tablets might contain is unknown to us. This object is extremely significant to my exhibition, as it not only highlights how certain knowledge may belong to a particular community of knowers, but also how that knowledge might be lost because the community has died out or because it has not been appropriately passed down. And now we may never know what knowledge belonged to the Harappans. The last object that I've chosen for my presentation today is the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum was built to serve as a memorial for the victims of the Jewish Holocaust carried out by Nazi Germany during the Second World War. One of its permanent exhibitions, titled The Holocaust, displays testimonials from Holocaust survivors. The Jewish Holocaust is one of the most recent episodes of genocide in human history, and its impacts are still felt among the Jewish community worldwide. I believe the knowledge that is contained in this museum and that belongs to the Jewish community is extremely significant today, as we have seen a rise of right-wing sentiments across Europe, America, and parts of Asia. And there has also been a rise in the neo-Nazi movement in the United States of America. Due to this, it is important that we consider this knowledge and we listen to the communities that have already gone through it to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself, and that if we consider information that belongs only to a particular community of knowers to be less valuable only because it is limited to a particular community, it can lead us to repeating our past mistakes. In conclusion, I believe that there is knowledge that belongs only to a particular community of knowers. However, simply because it belongs to a particular community of knowers does not mean it is of less value, and that we must cherish the information that is contained within certain communities of knowers, as this knowledge that was gained only by experiences can be extremely useful in enhancing our knowledge about cultures that aren't our own, and also history that we might not have experienced. Thank you.
My name is Chaitanya Pilalia and I study in DP1A. Welcome to my exhibition. The prompt that I have chosen is number 30. How important are material tools in the production or acquisition of knowledge? Let's start with unpacking the I. This prompt refers to tools such as books, computers, and physical objects which help us produce or acquire knowledge. Production of knowledge is how one uses different tools and acquired knowledge to produce new knowledge. And acquisition of knowledge is how one improves or obtains previously produced knowledge. This is my first object. I use my laptop on a daily basis. All my work, important documents are stored inside it. At most times I even use it for entertainment purposes, watching Netflix, or even for studying, as all the world's knowledge is available at the click of a button. The image you just saw is of the world's first computer. which was named the ENIAC, one of the most expensive and smart pieces of technology made, which laid the groundwork for the smart computers we use today. This computer was not as advanced as the ones we have. The main reason being there were no software companies like Windows existing at that time. Many at the time thought of the ENIAC as irrelevant. It was awfully expensive, could barely perform any tasks, and took days to transport. But the ENIAC was an important figure that shaped our future. ENIAC helped in both production and acquisition of knowledge, as it laid the groundwork for smart machines, which has helped make the process of production and acquisition of knowledge more efficient. For example, to acquire knowledge on a particular topic, we can search for it through our computers. And for production of knowledge, computers have helped us obtain the first ever picture of black hole, which would have never been possible without a computer. By religion, I am a Hindu, which is why it is no surprise that I have heard the term Vedas more than 1,000,000 times in my life. Studying in the 21st century, I usually do not believe books written in ancient India would benefit me in any way, as all the knowledge I require is mentioned in textbooks written by well-renowned scientists, which are way more credible than the books written hundreds of years ago. At least that's what I thought. The Vedas are regarded as religious texts written in ancient India. The Vedas were written in Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit, one of the oldest languages in the world. This text is also one of the oldest scriptures of Hinduism. Vedas contained the knowledge of the world, which was only accessible to the ones who tried to understand its content. This text was intended for general humans to gain knowledge which was not accessible to many at the time, or which had not yet been discovered. As humans progressed, we ignored our past and continued to unlock the secrets of the world, not knowing the information we seek to uncover had already been mentioned in our past. The Vedas' literal translation is knowledge, which contained most of the knowledge we humans were adamant to discover. For example, the distance from Sun to the Earth is approximately 140 million kilometers, which was discovered by an astronomer Christian Huygens in 1653. Though this knowledge was already mentioned in the Vedas, which were written between 1500 to 1200 BCE. Material tools such as books have played a very important role in our lives. The knowledge we desire to acquire has already been produced in our past. Apples have been a common fruit I see every day in my life. In my childhood, my parents used to force me to eat this fruit when I wanted to eat chips or pasta, and always used the famous proverb, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away." Now that I'm years old, I got to know that apples have no significant effect on our health. Apple is nothing more than just a fruit, which originated in Central Asia. Now looking back, I think this proverb was used as a marketing strategy to drive the sales of apples up. Though this fruit has no significant effect on our health, it has played an important role in the production of knowledge. Everyone has heard of gravity. The numerical term for acceleration of gravity is 9.8 meters per second square, which was discovered by Newton. But do you know what inspired him to discover this? An apple. When Newton was sitting under a tree reading a book, something fell from the tree and hit his head. It was an apple. That is when Newton had a eureka moment, which promoted him to discover the laws of gravity. The laws of gravity discovered by Newton have helped us unpack the secrets of the world. An apple comes under the material of tools category, which has helped us produce knowledge. exhibition, production of knowledge can be supported by my third object, the apple, a material tool helping in production of the laws of gravity. An acquisition of knowledge can be supported by my second object, the Vedas. To further elaborate my second object, the Vedas well support acquisition of knowledge, as books are divided further into two categories: books used for teaching and books used for learning. Many of you might ask, what is the difference between the two? Books used for teaching are generally materials which one cannot use to acquire knowledge by oneself, whereas books for learning can be used by any individual to acquire knowledge by oneself. Hence, I conclude, material tools play a very important role in production and acquisition of knowledge.
Hi, my name is Triptika and I'm a student of DP1C. For this TOK exploration journey, I have chosen prompt number 18, which asks, are some things unknowable? When I think of unknowable things, I am immediately pulled into the world of philosophy. My first object is a piece of paper I got signed from an elder in my family when I was just 12 years old, stating that they would tell me why God created us when I get older. Humans have always been curious about our origin, our creator, and our purpose. We have come up with all different kinds of arguments, from blind faith and grand destinies to the teleological argument, from fideism to the Pascal's wager. However, looking at these arguments, we find that these methods won't work because there are no appropriate testing methods to determine right from wrong. The scientific method won't work because we don't have any proof for the existence of God. These ideas regarding this are simply that, ideas. They're based on abstract concepts and opinions and beliefs. I do not believe that we can prove the existence of God or our purpose of living because this information that we possess on these topics have been passed on from generation to generation on the basis of religion and culture without any hard evidence. And therefore, due to the unknowable nature of this knowledge, I may never get the answer to the question asked by an innocent 12-year-old. In 2018, I was introduced to DC's The Flash, the series. As someone fond of metaphysics, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Therefore, my second object is a screenshot from a moment in Season 1, Episode 14, where Barry Allen talks to Martin Stein about time travel for the very first time. Metaphysics is discussing the nature of reality, space-time, and our mind in relation to the physical world. These concepts that are being discussed are either hypothetical or haven't been proven due to the lack of research, due to the fact that they're based on concepts that are just now being discovered, such as quantum physics. If you look at the concept of space-time, the question arises whether we can travel through it, or is it a predetermined structure that cannot be changed? These questions lead to more questions, thus resulting into paradoxes in our knowledge. Physics is making great strides in understanding the forces of the universe. Even so, the nature of reality and our mind in relation to the physical universe will always be open to interpretation due to the varied perspectives and the lack of having one correct answer. Most of these phenomena will remain unknowable. I do think, however, that shows like Flash help curious minds interact with these big concepts in small, digestible ways and create new thinkers in the process. I saw this post on my Instagram feed a couple of years back, and it led me to research more about the concept of solipsism. Solipsism stems from the belief that I can only be certain of my own existence because I know I can think and I can feel. However, I don't know if anybody else can do that or is just a figment of my own imagination. The concept interlocks well with the question of who we are. There have been many who have come to try to answer the question, but due to the lack of the use of scientific method and the varied theories, there has been no definitive answer. From the scientist to the shaman, there is not a possibility of having one answer which is either proven or accepted. Thus, the ultimate knowledge being unachievable, and unknowable. The knowledge that we have synthesized about the philosophical concepts are still limited. However, it does bring us hope when we look at the evolution of psychology. It was also considered a field of study with a lot of unknowns. Its progression in creation of knowledge has helped researchers conduct many useful experiments. Therefore, claiming that some things are unknowable with only the current evidence is reductionistic in nature. Due to the lack of evidence, philosophers tend to stick to prior beliefs and create biases that hinder the attainment of knowledge. Finally, in philosophy, different questions bring about several more questions, thus leading to an infinite regress, or turtles all the way down.
Good afternoon, I am Ishan Shamali from DP1B and this is my Theory of Knowledge exhibition. The TOK prompt I have selected to present today is how does the way we organize and classify knowledge affect what we know? I have focused on this prompt because the amount of knowledge available to us is constantly increasing due to the creation of new technologies. And with such a wide array of knowledge, we need ways to organize and classify that information or knowledge. This classification of knowledge can impact what we might or might not know. This prompt also aids us in understanding the role of concepts such as interpretation and evidence and their impact on the classification of knowledge. The first object I have chosen to present is the Royal Society of Chemistry's online periodic table of elements. This interactive version of the periodic table provides users with information on atomic mass, electronic configuration, isotopes, ionization energies, boiling points, melting points, etc. And as an IBTP chemistry student, the majority of my time spent studying chemistry has to do with information present in the periodic table of elements and how to interpret and apply it. With RSC's interactive periodic table, I can find all the data and information I require with ease. This shows that the classification or organization of knowledge can impact what we as knowers might know. And without the periodic table of elements, our knowledge in the subject of chemistry might not have gone further than it has in the past 150 years. This organization of elements has immensely helped us to progress in the field of chemistry. The second object I have chosen to present is the Merlin Bird App. The Merlin Bird App is an application I use very often to help me ID a bird or learn more about a certain species of bird. This application provides users with information on over 7,500 species of bird. Hence, they need ways to classify these species. They do this by classifying them by location, family, or alphabetically. This classification can make it easier for users to find birds on the app. The classification of birds can also affect what a user might know about a particular species. For example, a user can know more about the glossy ibis by looking at the family or bird pack it is classified under. The third and final object I have chosen to present is Encyclopedia Britannica. This online encyclopedia contains a vast variety of subject areas and disciplines. With so much information present on the website, they needed a way to categorize it according to the various fields and disciplines. The encyclopedia has 12 different categories and each category contains knowledge specific to that category. These categories are further divided into subcategories. For example, if I'd like to research the topic of animal development, now, I know animal development might belong to the category of life cycle processes and properties, and this category might belong to the category of biology, and biology might be found in the category of science. This categorization of knowledge not only makes it simple for me to learn a topic, but it also affects what I know and how I know it. Because if it weren't for the categorization of knowledge, I would not know where to look for this information, and I would end up wasting a large amount of time. Through this exhibition, I hope I was able to prove how the prompt, how does the way we organize and classify knowledge affect what we know, come into play in the real world in an easy and digestible manner. Thank you.
I am Priyansh Goyal, a student of DP1B. The TOK prompt I have selected is Why Do We Seek Knowledge? This exhibition explores this prompt by reflecting on the core theme of knowledge and knower. There are many reasons for why we seek knowledge, but in my opinion, the three main reasons why we seek knowledge are: firstly, for the betterment of the society; secondly, because it's thrilling and exciting to seek knowledge; and lastly, because knowledge allows us to understand previously unknown things, so we are not afraid of them anymore. Everyone has a different reasons for why they seek knowledge, but everyone seeks knowledge. My first object is an internal combustion engine. An internal combustion engine is responsible for converting liquid fuel into mechanical energy in order to move things. Engines play a very important role in all of our lives. Without engines, we won't be able to travel long distances and factories would shut down. Internal combustion engine also played an incredibly special role in industrial revolution, which was one of the most important events in the whole of human history. The desire to seek knowledge is what makes inventions like the internal combustion engine possible. This object is relevant to my exhibition as it shows the reasons why scientists and engineers around the world dedicate most of their lives in pursuit of knowledge, so they are able to make inventions like the combustion engine, which greatly help the human race progress further. It is especially important to continue to seek knowledge because if we stop seeking knowledge, we will stop progressing. Second object is the world map. The world map showcases and marks all the land masses, continents, and countries on our home planet Earth. In modern day and age, it is extremely easy with the help of modern technology to map the surface of the Earth and create a map. However, it was not always this easy to make world maps before the invention of modern technologies such as GPS, and people had to travel the whole world to seek knowledge and map it manually. Even though the task to seek knowledge and map the world in past was an extremely dangerous, time-consuming and tiring task, it did not stop great explorers like Marco Polo, Christopher Columbus from exploring and mapping the world. Their pursuit of knowledge promoted global trade, globalization, and helped shape the modern society. This object shows that the urge and the desire to seek knowledge is so strong it cannot be stopped even by the most difficult and dangerous tasks such as the task of manually mapping the earth. Human desire to seek knowledge will win no matter how hard or dangerous the pursuit of knowledge might be. My third and the final object is an excerpt from a book by Richard Feynman titled The Pleasure of Finding Things Out, the best short works of Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman was a Nobel Prize winner, American theoretical physicist known for his work in the field of quantum electrodynamics. Richard Feynman made it his life goal to learn and spent most of his life seeking knowledge. In the excerpt, he talks about how Richard Feynman's higher intellect and a positive attitude towards seeking knowledge allows him to see past the outer beauty of the flower and appreciate the beauty of the flower at a different dimension and level. While on the other hand, his friend, who is an artist with lower intellect and a negative attitude towards seeking knowledge, is only able to see the beauty present at the surface level. Richard Feynman later also implies how knowledge is an asset which only adds and does not subtract. This object is relevant to my exhibition as it showcases why many people like Richard Feynman seek knowledge because it can be useful someday to build something, but they seek knowledge just because it's exciting and fun to seek knowledge and understand the science behind the things around us. In conclusion, everyone has a different reason as to why they seek knowledge. Some seek knowledge to help humanity, some seek knowledge to become rich and powerful, while some seek knowledge simply because they find it exciting and fun. The desire to seek knowledge is common within all of us, and it is that desire to seek knowledge what makes us humans.
Hello, I'm Anand Chaudhary from D2C. The idea brand I've selected is what is the relationship between personal experience and knowledge. In this brand, I focused on how personal experience can either support knowledge or limit the access to gain that knowledge. And for this exhibition, I've selected a total of three objects. The first object is the chessboard. The second object is the bicycle, and the third object is Amazon Alexa.
My first object is a chessboard, which was invented nearly 15,000 years ago. The aim of chess is that two contesting players play with equal number of pieces, wherein the player who captures the other player's king wins the game. The pieces are colored black and white. There are various variations of a chess game, and the same 64 square board can be used in any form and manner as long as the guidelines set are followed by the two players. This is where the personal experience combined with the knowledge of a player comes in handy in this game. Knowledge is something that the common masses are aware of as a standard, generally placed on equal footing and set of rules that benefit both players. Knowledge also strives to create competition. A single move or piece of knowledge can turn around the whole game. But the ones who dominate are the ones who can successfully combine personal experience and knowledge, or rather create new knowledge completely unique to its individual. My second object is my bicycle. Young kids have always enjoyed riding the bicycle as this is the first mechanical thing that provides a sense of freedom and enjoyment to them. I also wanted to learn riding a bicycle at a very young age. I learned though that knowledge wise there's not much needed to ride it, but without personal experience it is quite difficult. When I started trying bicycling, I was told that I have to sit on it and just pedal, but once I tried doing it, I fell many times since I didn't have the experience on how to maintain balance, how hard to push pedals, how to apply brakes, etc. All these things, though, don't sound much knowledge wise, but it can only be mastered after a lot of practice. Initially, when a kid tries to learn it, he or she falls many times and sometimes is also hurt. A few of them give up for some time before mustering courage to try it again. It indicates that many times the knowledge part is not difficult, but negative or unpleasant personal experiences become a hurdle in one's learning. Also, when you have learned riding it, it is not the end. Bicycling on an empty road in secured premises is different from doing it on city roads with traffic, which in turn is different from doing it in hills and biking on hills. So, personal experiences have to be gained and applied along with basic knowledge to gain mastery. Bringing up of a child can also affect a lot. A few words of encouragement can lead a faster learning process as the possibility of failing leaves the mind, and this is why personal experience can have a great impact on knowledge. My third object is Amazon Alexa, which acts as a personal assistant device which is activated through voice commands slash speech. It is a machine with artificial intelligence. When it was introduced, it was only programmed for very basic commands, which is the very basic knowledge embedded in it. However, the major difference was that it had been programmed to learn through artificial intelligence, which is something unique. The machine is supposed to learn from its experiences just like humans. The present Alexa, which has evolved over a period of time, is much more superior to the one which was introduced earlier. This has been possible by a learning process which has been put in the machines in line with human beings. Just like humans, based on their personal experiences, try to learn and improve, the machines are also programmed to do so. The improvement in machines in such a small time have been much more than humans as they don't have their own biases. This artificial intelligence is being tested in self-driving cars, robots, etc. to improve our day-to-day life. These cars are self-learning and are improving day to day, thus making our lives more safe. Nowadays, self-parking cars are quite common. These clearly indicate that the basic knowledge, when combined with learning experiences, can make quite a lot of things to happen. Alexa nowadays can play the music of your choice, can do online shopping for you, can control the lights and fans of your home, and can read the news, etc.
I'm Rishi Mohan from DP1A, and the prompt I chose is prompt 17, which is why do we seek knowledge? Humans as a race are born with greater developed brains than other organisms, which makes us curious. There have been several activities and phenomena which we initially could not understand. However, after further research and observations, we were able to predict it. By seeking an explanation to justify an animal's actions, we were able to tame animals. By understanding the explanations of weather, humans were able to predict weather conditions. We seek knowledge to understand the unknown and make it known. The first object of my choice is the globe, which is a 3D representation of planet Earth and was invented in the year 1492. Unlike a map, it accurately represents the Earth without any distortion of its surface. It's a scaled-down version of the Earth that maintains its ellipsoid shape. This allows a visual representation of the parallel lines known as the latitudes and longitudes as well as the north and the south poles. The object is interesting to me because it helps us understand more information than just the geographical location. The globe is split into several different regions depending on its latitude and longitude, which helps us predict several factors. The distance from the equator is one such factor, which can be used to predict the temperature of a region, since temperatures tend to be higher if a region is closer to the equator and colder if it's farther away. Another factor is prevailing winds, which is the most frequent wind direction a region experiences. This wind could be dry, moist, warm, or cold, which could contribute to temperatures or rainfall. Distance from the sea should also be taken into account since oceans tend to cool down and warm up much slower than land, which makes the land near the coastal lands warmer in the colder times and colder in the summers. The globe allows us to take these factors into consideration and maybe even help plan a visit. The globe allows one to discover new places and encourage traveling to seek new experiences. The globe contains a lot of information which may not seem important at first glance, but if you seek such knowledge and use the information in your own favor, it can be quite rewarding. The second object of my choice is the National Geographic's Kids Almanac, which was published in the year 2014. It contains scientific information about a range of topics from animals to outer space. The target audience of the magazine is young children, but that doesn't limit its audience because information is based on scientific facts, which makes it relevant to date. Seeking knowledge allows us to be responsible and informed, which was precisely the aim of the magazine. The object is interesting because it has an immense amount of scientific knowledge, which is quite intriguing, and some topic or the other is bound to grab the reader's attention. The information ranges from species of penguins to stars in and out of the galaxy, and all the information is presented in a digestible and enjoyable manner since the target audience is a young demographic. The magazine is capable of many people to be interested in seeking knowledge from a very young age, since it has a variety of topics which broadens its audience to basically anyone and everyone. The third object of my choice is the Ramayana, which is an ancient Hindu text written in the 5th century BCE. Even though it could be classified as a simple storybook, it has a lot of underlying knowledge which one can gather by reading it. The text makes use of devices such as metaphors, similes, and symbolism to share the information. The original Ramayana was written in Sanskrit, but since then has been translated into more than 22 languages, which helps us break the language barrier. This helps broaden the reach of the knowledge, although some knowledge is lost in translation due to the structural or cultural aspects, but most is preserved. I found this subject interesting because even though the text is ancient and may not adhere to modern science, it shares values and morals which are universal and will stay relevant across all ages basically. This is because the knowledge is based on basic human behavior and what is right and wrong. I believe seeking for knowledge is beneficial since it helps us understand the unknown and eliminate any room for error. I chose this prompt because it allowed me to understand basic human behavior and even think about how I take decisions, why I seek for knowledge.
Good afternoon, my name is Vinod Rana and the I prompt I've chosen is should some knowledge not be sought on ethical grounds. This I prompt forces us to consider the implications of the knowledge that has already been discovered in the past and that of the knowledge which will be discovered in the future. It also brings in morality and ethical beliefs into the exploration of knowledge. Now this is very interesting since one's morals can greatly influence what field they wish to pursue in the future and what they wish to learn about. It is crucial to understand that the answer to this I prompt is going to change from knower to knower as everyone has a different set of morals and ethical beliefs. This is my first object, my physics textbook for DP1 physics. One of the most interesting chapters this year in our syllabus is nuclear and particle physics. A long and heated debate in the 20th century among physicists was regarding nuclear physics and its possible implications. Physicists were concerned about the ethics of researching into this field, which is exactly what this I prompt is about. Joseph Robert and Arthur Copton were just few physicists who were against the use of nuclear bombs to end World War II. The scientists working in the Manhattan Project sent a proposal to President Harry Truman, arguing that the first nuclear bomb should be used as a demonstration to show Japan that the states possessed a deadly weapon, which they were willing not to use if Japan surrendered. They also proposed that this program should be made public so that an international committee can step in and control the use of these weapons. Military generals and politicians were completely against this idea, and this proposal never reached the president. This directly connects to the I prompt since it's an example of how one's ethics and morals can influence the answer to this prompt. Many physicists deemed nuclear physics as unethical and the bombing as unethical, whereas military generals and politicians and even most Americans believe the research into this field was in fact ethical and the bombing had to be done to end this war. This is interesting since it shows us how one's ethics and morality can influence the answer to this prompt. My second object is a gene editing technology known as CRISPR. I came across this technology while studying biology during my web years. This object presents us with a very similar question as the I prompt itself. Do the negatives of gene editing outweigh its positives? The answer to this question would give us possible answers for the I prompt as well. Many doctors around the world are excited about the possibility that gene editing might have the potential to cure all hereditary diseases, saving millions of lives around the globe. Through this lens, it's easier to say that research in this field is ethical. So the answer to the I prompt would be no. Knowledge about gene editing should be sought in order to save human lives. But sociologists fear that gene editing risks creating a new breed of designer children whose traits would be decided by the parents' view of an ideal child, a view which would rest on society's perspective of what's perfect. This would lead to a host of problems such as loss of individuality and discrimination on the basis of genes. Overall, this would degrade the social climate of the society. Sociologists argue that there is no point in saving human lives when the environment we live in continues to deteriorate. From this perspective, the answer to the I prompt would be yes, knowledge about gene editing should not be sought on ethical grounds. This also brings us back to the point that the answer to this I prompt would depend on what the knower deems to be ethical or unethical. While doctors value the human life above anything, sociologists care about the quality of life we will live. The third order is a picture of crickets who were used for arguably the most unethical study conducted in psychology. This study involved the separation of many triplets and twins at birth. The study stopped away in Yale University until 2066, but psychologists speculate that the aim of the study was to settle the popular debate of nature versus nurture. This object gives us multiple answers to the I prompt as well. The most common strand regarding the study is that it was unethical because the families involved were not informed, no partisan consent was taken, and the children in the study were treated no better than lab rats by the researchers. This is the opinion of many psychologists, psychiatrists, and even the general public. They believe that treating humans like lab rats to gain knowledge in a field can never be justified. Very few people believe that this study was actually ethical. They argue that the possible answers to the nature versus nurture debate outweigh the damage studies can do to its participants. They argue that the answers to this debate would help people to select an environment based on their genotype, which would help foster their growth and lead them arguably to a happy and successful life. This object brings back the point that the answer to this I prompt depends on one's morality. While some believe that treating humans like lab rats can never be justified, others believe that it can be justified if the benefits done outweigh the damage. To conclude, these three objects give us multiple answers to the I prompt. This shows us how different knowers answer this I prompt differently, since everyone has a different set of ethical beliefs and morals.
Good afternoon everyone, I'm Imroz Anam from DP1B, and for today's TOK exhibition I have chosen the prompt number 34, which is, in what ways do values affect our acquisition of knowledge? Here, values can refer to anything from religious or cultural values, and the objects that I've chosen for the exhibition also reflect the same ideas of values affecting our acquisition and our perspective towards any real life issues or the knowledge that is around us. So for my first object, I chose this Quran. Quran is the holy book that the Muslim community follows. The values that are taught from a religious background are highly impactful because it's blinded belief, and which means that it can affect our rational decision making in real life issues a lot. So for my second object, I chose this picture of Babri Mosque or the Ram Temple. The recent news in India about the reverting of Babri Mosque into Ram Temple, which by some theories was suggested that the mosque was initially a temple, left the two communities, the Hindu and the Muslim community, with a huge gap amongst them. This shows us that the difference in the values amongst the two communities impacted how they perceived the knowledge around them. To a Muslim man who has grown up with his set of beliefs and values will only accept the decision or the knowledge around him which match with his beliefs. Vice versa with the Hindu man. This shows us that the difference in the values will create an impact if we don't find a common ground. The third and the last object that I chose is this painting of mine called an artwork. The reason that I chose this as my third object is because it defines my values which are affected by the platforms in today's world and the people that I look up to, my idols, the singers that I look up to, who are redefining beauty standards, who spread body positivity. And because I've grown up in such a society where women aren't objectified like our previous society, and how throughout historical times they were objectified and they were supposed to be perfect creatures, perfect objects with less rights from men. And because my values are affected by women empowerment and the people who spread body positivity, the painting that I made is also a reflection of my perception of beauty and the standards today. To conclude it all, values are an ongoing process. It's not something that is built overnight. Lastly, we need to understand that values inculcated by us do affect our acquisition of knowledge. Therefore, our values need to be moldable and more accepting towards each other's belief. That brings us to the end of this presentation. Thank you for your time and attention.
My name is Anya Chaube of DP1A and I have chosen prompt 11. Can new knowledge change established values and beliefs? New knowledge and information often encourage change. They both have the ability to sway preconceived notions and provoke uncertainty in the knower, thereby altering perspectives and changing beliefs and values. This and the knowledge that is acquired with logos has data backing to support it. A very recent example supports this view. After the COVID-19 vaccine was released, the UAE Fatwa Council made it permissible for Muslims to use this vaccine despite it containing pork gelatin. This belief that the consumption of pork products is haram has adapted in the face of current challenges. My first object is the wine and egg diet published in Vogue magazine. This was a 3-day diet that could shed 5 pounds. Vogue, being a credible, reliable, and famous source, had the ability to influence its audience's perceptions, making this diet extremely popular. As a teenager, open to new ideas and knowledge, and with a keen interest in health and lifestyle, I was attracted to it myself. New research has, however, highlighted that such diets are unhealthy short-term solutions and has illustrated the better all-round effectiveness of more sustainable and less restrictive diets. This new knowledge changed my own and many other people's beliefs about such diets, which have quite correctly been called crash diets. My next object is my sustainable menstrual cup. Knowledge around women's health and menstruation has often been cloudy and blurred because it was considered to be a taboo subject. Until recently too, women's hygiene products were not considered environment friendly. This has changed with the arrival of more sustainable products like my object. Because this is relatively new, it is quite popular and it expands its community of knowers, assisted by an evolution in values and sensitivities to taboo subjects. This object is personal to me as my beliefs and values have changed as a result of it. It also represents new knowledge by symbolizing the larger industry of women's health, which has evolved and changed the beliefs and values of people all across the world. My next object is a book I own known as Homo Deus, which explores humanity's quest for immortality and the power of knowledge and new technology. Each historical event mentioned or discussed is preceded by the arrival of new knowledge for the human race. Harari considers the paradox of historical knowledge. Knowledge that does not change behavior is useless. Since beliefs and values influence behavior, knowledge changes beliefs and values. New knowledge has to be accessible to many communities and knowers in order to be circulated and shared successfully. Harari argues that this forms a self-perpetuating loop where beliefs are reinforced. Hence, the change in beliefs in one part of the world or in a particular community of knowers can change established beliefs somewhere else too. To conclude, it is inevitable that knowledge changes established values and beliefs. Diets are disproved time and time again with new knowledge. In history, revolutions have happened as values have changed. The French Revolution represented a value shift from patriotism and allegiance to liberty, fraternity, and equality. In health, sensitivity and domestic values keep on evolving as communities grow. We must all seek to contribute to this all-important process and accept that knowledge has the power to change core beliefs and values. For that is what makes us human, our ability to change, grow, and evolve.
I'm Sardana and I'm from DP1C. For my TOK exhibition, I have chosen the 20th IA prompt, what is the relationship between personal experience and knowledge? This prompt provides the knower with a base to examine the role personal experiences play in the acquisition and production of knowledge, allowing us to establish a connection between the same. In my opinion, personal experiences allow individuals to shape their personality, the way they react to situations, their thoughts and emotions, while also allowing for the obtainment of skills. If a knower has experienced a particular subject area, one can say they have knowledge on the same. And with that thought, the following are my chosen objects. As my first object, I chose an Indigo Airlines face shield. As a knower, this face shield has allowed me to acquire knowledge on the change the tourism and aviation industry has undergone, creating the new normal when traveling for leisure due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. To contain the spread of the virus during travel, airlines provide passengers with both face shields and face masks to ensure utmost safety. During this winter break, I traveled on my first aircraft since the beginning of the pandemic. and this experience has fueled me with knowledge, allowing me to understand the effect the pandemic has had on the aviation industry and obtain knowledge on the current forms of travel. This face mask could symbolize the drastic negative impacts that took the aviation industry by storm, resulting in nearly 5 million lost jobs and a fall in 46 million aviation supported jobs due to limited amount of individuals traveling. A clear evolution of the industry can be seen, from traveling panic-free without health concerns to a time where one prioritizes health over anything as an outcome of the pandemic. This experience has also enabled me to predict future travel patterns while also allowing me to evaluate the experiences of other passengers on the basis of comfort and safety. As my second object, I chose the song Respect by Aretha Franklin, an R&B soul hit published in 1967. When starting the civil rights movement back in 10th grade, I stumbled across this song, and the motives behind it instantly intrigued me. Respect by Aretha Franklin was an anthem for the civil rights movement and second wave feminism during the 1960s and 70s. Originally an Otis Redding song of him demanding respect from his wife after coming home from a long day of work, Franklin changed the lyrics in her own version of the song to reflect her story and her personal experiences as a black woman in America. The sentiment and common knowledge resonated with a lot of women, who felt like second-class citizens due to the way they were treated. The success of this song helped represent and reflect the lives and experiences of the common woman. Whether she was a housewife or a professional, this song, along with other feminist and pro-black art created around this time, was instrumental in not only advocating their struggles of what it was like to be black or a woman, but it also helped motivate people to join the fight for equality. In other words, art like hers chronicled personal experiences of marginalized groups, becoming a source of knowledge for those uninformed or unaware in advocating for their social issue. As my third object, I chose a post on the forum incels.co, as used by incels. When learning about echo chambers for our Theory of Knowledge classes, I stumbled across a YouTube video that described this online subculture, and it instantly interested me. According to the late 90s, incel, or short for involuntary celibate, are a group of individuals, specifically men, belonging to an online subculture who deem themselves unattractive and define themselves as unable to find romantic partners even while desiring for one. Using this forum as a place to post and discuss their feelings and experiences as an incel creates a medium where their beliefs are constantly amplified and repeated, not allowing for any rebuttals. When we discuss personal experiences, bias plays a major role. As no one's experienced events, the knowledge received is further developed on with the addition of other primary and secondary data, allowing one to form opinions. Personal experiences create confirmation bias, where the knower would recall information that supports their prior beliefs gained from experiences, the same which takes place in this subculture. Each incel is surrounded by one another, trapping them inside an echo chamber, in which these knowers are only willing to hear and receive information that affirms what they know, which is again gained from previous personal experiences. When seeking knowledge, they're forced to conform to their biases, rather than engaging with a more diverse, broader set of opinions. This post is one of the many on the forum where members of the community would engage in discussions that verify their personal biases, as the same beliefs are constantly reinstated. In conclusion, while my first two objects support the claim that personal experiences lead to the effective acquisition of knowledge and obtainment of skills, personal experiences create a bias that obscures objectivity. From here, we can create a link as to how personal experiences and the development and production of knowledge go hand in hand. Thank you.
On behalf of the management, pedagogical leadership team, and the DPSI fraternity of knowers and explorers, I, Jyotika Singh, the IB Diploma Program Coordinator, propose the vote of thanks on this valedictory moment. It is an absolute honor to thank Mr. Michael Dunn for gracing the occasion as the chief guest. Sir, your very presence was a great motivation for us all. It goes without saying that your insightful reflections have enriched us and added new dimensions to our learning. It was a privilege to have enlightened educators and curious learners who traversed through this virtual exhibition. A sincere thank you to all the guests and the parent community. I would also like to extend our gratitude to the young scholars of DP Year 1 at DPSI for enriching our understanding and appreciation of the world of theory of knowledge through their inquisitive and exciting mindsets that invigorated thoughts about the unknown embedded in the known. A humble thanks to the guiding light, Ms. Rima Singh, our head of school, and Ms. Seema Kaushal, our secondary school principal, whose vision and guiding thoughts encouraged us to curate this virtual TOK exhibition with such precision and finesse. I would be failing in my duty if I do not acknowledge and applaud the tireless efforts put in by the entire DP faculty, the TOK team comprising Ms. Nagma Kamal Khan, Ms. Vartika Avdesh, Ms. Sakshi Arora, and Mr. Karthik Hariharan. A special mention to the DPSI tech experts Ms. Preeti Singhal and Mr. Jaspreet Singh Walia, without whom this floor wouldn't have been as seamless as it was. Last but not the least, Ms. Shalini Sehgal, our TOK coordinator, whose persistence and initiative has opened the vistas of knowledge exploration for the entire team. With this, we conclude the first ever Theory of Knowledge virtual exhibition by the class of May 2022. Happy tidings!